Okay, so we're going to try something a little bit different because I have set quite a lot of reading for this week. Um, I think that maybe if I talk through some of it, it might make it a little bit more accessible for you, and then you will be able to focus your reading a little bit more and know where to find pieces of information in the textbook as well. I'm not going to go through the activities, which, as you know, you can find in files, and there are some questions that you're being asked to do, some activities you're being asked to complete. I'm not going to go through those. You need to do your own thinking for that. So you have watched this video here, which tells you what Nigeria is like and the climate. And the first thing that we need to do, we always do this whenever we start a new topic or start looking at a new place, is we want to know where it is. So we know that Nigeria is a country in West Africa. Let's take it to a bigger map. It's bordered by Cameroon, Chad, Niger, and Benin, and it lies on the Gulf of Guinea. It also lies very close to the equator, as we can see here. But we know that as we move north of the equator, we start getting to quite hot and dry areas, and we know that because we looked at the Thar Desert, which is over here. So we know that all up here is quite hot and dry. We know that down by the equator, where we find rainforests, is hot and wet. It's very humid. And Nigeria basically spans all of that. So in the south, it's quite tropical, it's hot, it's really hot, but it's really wet. And as we get towards the north, towards the border of Nigeria and Niger, it starts to get a lot hotter and a lot drier as well. So that's something that we should automatically be thinking about, is that the climate varies quite a lot across the country. What do we know about countries when they have climates that are either really, really hot, really, really wet? What does that mean for their development? And I trust that you can start to try and build those links in. Absolutely bring in what we know about the rainforest that we've looked at. Absolutely bring in what we know about the Thar Desert as well, and start trying to create links between those and between Nigeria. So we know where Nigeria is. You've written me a brilliant description using compass points, neighbouring countries, nearby seas, everything like that. And then we want to start thinking about why Nigeria. So it's a newly emerging economy. So it means that it's experiencing rapid economic growth. And in 2014, Nigeria became the world's 21st largest economy. In 2050, so only 30 years away, it should be in the top 20 largest economies. And it's meant to have the world's highest average GDP growth. So remember, GDP is what we sometimes use instead of GNI. So the highest average GDP growth means that the income of Nigeria as a country is meant to grow rapidly, faster than any other country, between 2010 and 2015. So that's really important. They're experiencing huge, rapid economic growth. But they also supply 2.7% of the world's total oil. So they are the 12th largest oil producer. Because Nigeria lies at the mouth of the Niger River, the Niger Delta is incredibly rich in oil. So Nigeria has that. That's what they supply. But it also is starting to develop a really diverse economy. So they're starting to move out from just oil production, and they're starting to become kind of major global players in terms of financial services, like banking, telecommunications, and the media. And Lagos, which isn't the capital city but is one of the largest cities, that is what they've called a thriving global economic hub. It's kind of like the Canary Wharf of Nigeria. So they've got the economic growth, and they are economically very important, but also politically, Nigeria is becoming more important. So they currently rank the 5th largest contributor to UN peacekeeping missions around the world. So they have peacekeeping troops that they send to other countries. I think off the top of my head, they've been quite helpful in Libya. And so that's something that's really important as well, is that politically, globally, they're helping to play a part in that worldwide peacekeeping. So that's the global overview. If we look at Nigeria's importance in Africa, so not only are they one of the fastest growing economies globally, but also regionally, they're one of the fastest growing economies in Africa. In 2014, it was the richest country in Africa, and had the 3rd largest manufacturing sector. So they were the 3rd largest producers of goods. And it's also got the largest population with more than 182 million people. Because of the climate, because of the physical geography, they have areas of quite low productivity. And there's also quite a lot of issues over land ownership, but they have quite a big farming and agricultural sector, with about 70% of the population being employed in agriculture. Most of them are subsistence farmers. So we looked at subsistence farmers when we looked at the Thar Desert, as opposed to commercial farmers. And subsistence farmers usually grow food just for kind of themselves and their local communities, rather than on a large scale for, say, export, or to feed whole countries. But that doesn't mean that subsistence farmers only have a small area to farm, because those communities can be quite large, that they are subsistence farming for. And Nigeria has over 19 million cattle. That's cows, bulls. What it goes on to say here is that Nigeria could lead the way in Africa's future development. So think about the map that we saw in the end of topic test that showed the HDI levels of from around the world, but in particular, when we looked at Africa, we noticed that the HDI was below 0.5, particularly most of Central Africa. But Nigeria is kind of they're the front runners, and actually, if we can support Nigeria to develop, a lot of Africa will follow up behind them. Barack Obama, during one of the Nigerian elections recently, he pleaded with the people of Nigeria, and he said it's critical to the rest of the continent that they vote. And if Nigeria does not get it right, Africa will really not make progress. Keep that in your mind as you learn more about Nigeria this week as well. Think about what that might mean. Think about, as you learn more about the importance of Nigeria, think about why it's so important for Nigeria to progress, and what that means for the rest of Africa. So that's basically those first 2 pages. And then as we move on, we start to look more specifically at the political, social, and cultural context. So the political context is really, really important. We know that, actually I'll ignore that. So Nigeria is a former British colony. And we know that former colonies are usually subject to uneven development as well. So in 1883, at the Berlin Conference, a small group of really powerful European countries essentially just carved up Africa. And it was basically like a big land grab. And the British got control of Nigeria. Nigeria became fully independent from the UK in 1960, but as we've already discussed, when we've looked at the causes of uneven development, when countries become independent, they often don't have the systems in place to be able to then effectively lead the country. And there were massive power struggles, there were a series of dictatorships, and then there was a civil war between 1967 and 1970. So this affected Nigeria's development, and it led to widespread corruption that still kind of damages the way that people think about Nigeria these days. However, recent elections in 2011 and 2015, they were seen as free and fair. So because of that, countries are now starting to invest in Nigeria. So we've got here a few examples. China's making major investments in construction in the capital, which is Abuja. South Africa is starting to invest in business and banking. American companies such as General Electric are investing in new power plants. So think about how amazing it will be for Nigeria's development if they can have adequate, well-run power plants that give them efficient and stable electricity across the country. Think about what that will mean for their kind of productivity, for children being able to study at night, for businesses to be able to work longer hours, and more consistently as well. And additionally, American corporations such as Walmart and some big IT companies like Microsoft and IBM are starting to operate in Nigeria as well. So basically, because they've managed to tackle those issues of corruption, because they've had some free and fair elections recently, it means that other countries are wanting to do business with them, which means that they're going to be able to develop economically as well. Nigeria is an incredibly diverse country. It's multi-ethnic and it's multi-faith. So the largest ethnic groups are the Yoruba, which make up 21% of the population, the Hausa and Fulani, which make up 29% of the population, and Igbo, which are 18% of the population. And then the major religions are Christianity, Islam, and then traditional African religions. So it's such a diverse country, which is a really big strength of theirs. But unfortunately, it's also been a source of conflict. So in 1967, the Igbo state, which is basically the southeast of the country, tried to basically become its own country. They were known as the Republic of Biafra. And so that was the Civil War. So because we talked about the political context, that there was a civil war following some dictatorships and power struggles, it was between the Igbo and the rest of the country trying to get power over the southeast. But unfortunately, nowadays, what that means is that the Yoruba and Igbo, because they're located primarily on the coast, that's where those ethnicities kind of reside. So Yoruba are near Lagos, and actually let's go over to this map. So Yoruba are usually found around here, around Lagos. Igbo are usually found towards the southeast and Port Harcourt. And then the Hausa and Fulani are usually up near the Jos Plateau. There are some tensions still there, and there has been recently the Islamic fundamentalist group Boko Haram, which has created quite an unstable situation in the country, has caused quite a lot of widespread conflict. And what that has also meant is that because of the presence of Boko Haram, who are a fundamentalist Islamic fundamentalist group, that some countries are choosing not to invest in Nigeria just yet. So we've got here a table that compares Nigeria and the UK. So just have a look through it and just have a look at, say, the population, the births per year. What does that tell us about their, about their development compared with the deaths per year? So, such a low rate of deaths and a high rate of births. Where might that be on the demographic transition model? And then if we start looking at the GNI per head as well. So per person per year, the country's GNI averages out to $2,970 US, compared with the UK, which averages out to 43,430. So there's still quite a big disparity in wealth. Now remember, because this is GNI per head, it is an average calculation. Okay. So regional variations, I've touched on this briefly just before when we looked at the climate. So urban areas are quite built up. So looking back in our map, Lagos, so Abuja, which is the capital city. So 60% of children in urban areas and cities attend secondary school, but only 36% of children attend secondary school in rural areas. So a lot of, particularly where it starts to get quite a lot hotter and drier, quite rural, which has led to quite a lot of people moving from rural areas to cities, and we call that rural to urban migration. We'll be revisiting that concept in another unit as well next year. This links back nicely to my point about GNI being an average calculation. So it varies greatly across the country. It's generally highest in the south because they have a bit more of a friendly climate, basically. They have higher rainfall, so they can actually they can grow things. They can engage in farming a bit easier, but also because down here at the mouth of the Niger River, this is where a lot of the oil is. Deltas are usually quite fertile land as well. And they've got access to the oil reserves down here, and there's Lagos, and we know about coastlines and trading routes as well. However, up here, up in the north of the country, it's they get drought, they have desertification, there's a lack of resources, and as I said, Boko Haram are located in the north as well, which contributes to a limited economic growth. So cultural context, Nigeria is so diverse. They have such a rich and varied culture. So Nigerian music is really big, and you're probably too young to have ever heard about a Nigerian musician called Fela Kuti, but he was quite a political musician as well. You can, I'm sure, look up his music on Spotify or YouTube. They have their own film industry. It's the second largest film industry in the world, called Nollywood. So the US, so Hollywood is the third largest film industry, Bollywood is the first largest, Nollywood from Nigeria the second. There are some fantastic Nigerian writers that are kind of growing in popularity. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie was sampled in the Beyonce track, so that really put Nigeria right on the world stage in that way as well. And their football team has won the African Cup of Nations 3 times. So they've got, cinema, literature, music, sports. So it is really kind of rich and varied. And the last point from this spread is just the environmental context. So I've talked about it a few times, but this map really highlights just how the climate changes as you move north from the country. So in the south, as you move north within the country. From the south, you've got really lush, really green, so they get quite a lot of rainfall down there. And as you move north towards the Sahel region and Sahara, you can see that it gets quite dry, and that's where they're at risk of, say, desertification and drought. So, coming on to the last 2 pages. So this is revisiting Nigeria's political links. So, as I said, Nigeria was part of the British Empire until 1960. When it became independent, it became a member of the British Commonwealth, and it now has equal status with all countries, including the UK, which means that it's no longer seen as kind of property of the UK. They are seen as a country in their own right, but they do recognise the Queen as the head of the Commonwealth. So, like New Zealand, which is also a Commonwealth country, New Zealand recognises the Queen as the head of state. So they recognise the Queen as, she still has quite a significant oversight over New Zealand. Whereas Nigeria, they said, no, we don't want that. Will recognise the Queen as the head of the Commonwealth, which is a group that they're part of, but not as the head of Nigerian state. Now, we talked about how, as they've been having more free and fair elections, they've been seeing more engagement with the wider world. And what that's also meant, as well as investment, is that they're becoming a leading member of political and economic groups, as well as some international organisations. So this mind map here talks you through just 5 of the political and economic groups that Nigeria is part of. Now, there is a task where you choose 3 of these, so you don't have to do all 5, just 3. And you need to start offering reasons why Nigeria might want to join one of those. So you can absolutely do a little bit of your own research to figure out exactly what it is that these groups do. So the ones that are listed here are the African Union, who do economic planning and peacekeeping. And Nigeria is in an alliance with Niger, Chad, Benin, and Cameroon, so it's neighbouring countries, to provide troops in the peacekeeping. Moving to the right, we've got ECOWAS, which is the Economic Community of West African States. So it's a trading group. Now, remember when we looked at fair trade, we also looked at free trade and trading groups, and how countries try and avoid those tariffs and quotas that makes trading more expensive. So Nigeria is part of one of those, ECOWAS, and it's made up of just countries in West Africa, and their headquarters are in Abuja. So the headquarters are in the capital of Nigeria. Coming round, we've got the Community of Sahel-Saharan States. So that's quite similar to ECOWAS. So they, but it covers not just. So if we come here, so we've got West Africa, but because it covers the Sahel and Saharan states, it also covers basically a lot of the North African states there. And they also aim to create sporting links, so football, etc. Down the bottom, OPEC, which is the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. So because Nigeria supplies 2.7% of the world's oil, and they are the 12th largest producer of the world's oil. They are members of OPEC, which aim to stabilize the price of oil. So making sure that, kind of like fair trade, but for resource-rich countries, not small-scale cocoa farmers. They try to stabilize the price of oil so that it doesn't go up too much, because that means it doesn't go down too much. And they also try to ensure that there's a regular supply of it as well. Finally, Nigeria are members of the United Nations, and they, as I've already said, they contributed the 5th largest number of troops to the US peacekeeping force. And then in 2014 to 2015, they were also a temporary member of the UN Security Council. So what you need to be doing is thinking about why Nigeria wants to be part of these groups. And moving on, we've got what are Nigeria's global trading relationships. So we know that Nigeria is already in a really good position because it's located on a coastline, and because they have a really rich supply of oil. So that's one of their main exports, is crude and refined petroleum. So they've processed the oil as well. They're not just raw goods, but also natural gas, rubber, cocoa, and cotton. But then they also import a lot of refined petroleum from Europe and from the USA. They get cars from Brazil and the USA, and they also get telephones, rice, and wheat. They get a lot of their telephones from China, and it says here that they are 7th in the world for the number of mobile phones used, compared to the UK, which is 16th in the world. So they have a massive demand for mobile phones, and they get those mainly from China. We know that China has started recently investing in Nigeria. And so that's a really strong economic relationship that they forged there. So that's this page. And then the last things are just a few little, just some examples of crude oil and agriculture. So crude oil is, that's like the raw, unprocessed oil that basically they just they've got it out of the ground, and that dominates Nigeria's exports. So until 2013, the USA was Nigeria's biggest customers, and that's partly because the Nigerian oil has been described as sweet oil because it has less than 42% sulfur. So it's higher quality than oil that's usually found in the Middle East, and so it's suitable for refining into petrol. It says gasoline or fuel here, but it's suitable for refining into petrol. So it's really popular because everyone uses it if they've got a car. Recently, it's changed. So now India is actually the largest. Is now Nigeria's biggest customer, and they've recently increased. Between 2013 and 2014, exports of crude oil to India, China, Japan, and South Korea have increased by 40%. So it used mainly just be the USA, but actually now they're starting to really expand into Asia, which is quite a big market for them to get into, and it's likely to have a lot to do with their relationship with China that they're forging. So the last point is just about agriculture, so just about how their economy has been changing. So the reliance on crude petroleum, so on the raw oil, has reduced the importance of agricultural products, but they've still got 40% of the population employed in farming. Australia and then Indonesia are the biggest customers for Nigerian cotton. And they have some, but not much, cocoa and rubber exports. And most of that goes to Barbados for processing. So we know that LICs often sell raw, unprocessed goods for quite a low price, and then other countries take it for processing. It's likely that a country has or company has set up a processing plant in Barbados. It's not that Barbados is an HIC that is buying all of the cocoa and rubber from Nigeria. So it's likely that another country is controlling that and is just using Barbados for probably low wages, cheap rent, everything like that. The only other countries in West Africa that are significant trading partners of Nigeria are Ghana and the Ivory Coast, and that's even though Nigeria is part of ECOWAS and CENSAD, so part of these two trading groups within Africa. So I hope that it's been a little bit helpful to help you make sense of some of this, to make it feel a little less overwhelming. If you have any questions, please email me and let me know, and we can work through them. Have a go at the questions, have a go at the quiz. If there's anything that I've said that you want more clarification on, or anything like that, let me know. Also, remember, if there's anything in here that you'd like more information about, so say you want to explore some of Nigeria's culture, or you want to learn more about some of these political and economic links that they have, obviously, I would fully encourage you going and conducting some of your own research. And if you want to do that but you don't know where to start, I can hopefully help you a little bit with that.